Hello and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about something, but before we get to it, I just wanted to mention that for the foreseeable future, all videos that I do on the channel are going to be at this different camera angle. I know in the past I've done it, behind my bookshelf with stuff, everything. Full disclosure here, I'm in the process of actually moving right now, and it's going to be a slow process for the next couple of months, but because of that, you guys don't need to see an empty bookshelf or, what soon will be an empty bookshelf. So I figured this would be a little bit better and also changes things up. The focus of today's video I want to talk about is a situation that has been going on for a couple days now that I feel like nobody's talking about on YouTube, but I see it all over the internet, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake and the disastrous mess that it's become. So last week there was a state of play that went over some titles. It was actually a pretty lame state of play, I'm not gonna lie. Most everything shown is a PS4 game that's also gonna be on PS5. A lot of it was stuff we already knew about. The only new information at this event, at least that I felt was worth mentioning, was Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. And this is where this whole bullshit situation started. So, Square has announced that, yes, the PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting an upgrade for the PS5. So if you currently own a copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake, you can put it in your PlayStation. If you have it digitally, that's fine, whatever. It will upgrade to the PS5 version. The PS5 version is going to offer a performance mode, which will run the game at 60 frames per second, and it will also offer a full native 4K resolution mode that I assume will be locked at 30 frames, hence why they have two modes. It's disappointing that the game can't run at native 4K 60, but given everything else we've seen thus far out of the PS5, I'm not really surprised at that. But that's not where the disappointment really begins. The disappointing thing here, why a lot of Final Fantasy fans are really pissed off, is that Square here basically has decided to release a DLC chapter with Yufie. The problem with this is that DLC chapter is only available to players on the PS5 version of the game. This is a downloadable content that was designed for a PS4 game that is now only going to be locked behind the PS5 version. So that's kind of where this bullshit scenario began, and then it snowballed even further by Sony announcing, hey, for the month of March, you get, for PlayStation Plus subscribers, you get Final Fantasy VII Remake for free. However, the Plus version of this game will not get the free upgrade. Now, I'm of two minds on this. Number one, I understand why they're not giving you the free upgrade on something that you got for free, but they're providing it for customers and consumers that purchase the game. I think for customers that purchase the game, the upgrade should be free. That's kind of been my stance on every one of these situations. It's why I look at things like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. At the end of the month, there's going to be a PS5 and Series X version of that game. Problem with that is, unless you bought the digital deluxe version of the game, you have to pay $10 for that. I don't think that $10 should be a thing. I think it should be a free upgrade if you bought the game already. Or you can go to the other end of the spectrum in a video that I've already done and talk about Control. Control, is a game that they promised a free upgrade for when the game came out, and then they waited a year, released a new version of the game that had the DLC included, but then told consumers, oh, you have to purchase this new version of the game because we did all this extra work for it. And I'm sorry, they didn't do extra work. All they did was file save as. It's not like you can sit here, you can talk to me about, well, they did, work and do this and that. It's the same game. And also, when you want to make the argument of ray tracing and they did all this stuff, that was already in the PC version of the game that released the same day as the original version of the game. That work is already done. So the excuse of, oh, we did all this extra work, it's a lie. They didn't do extra work. But putting that aside, that is an example of really how not to handle this type of situation. But on the Final Fantasy side of things, I think giving the upgrade for free for people that purchase the game makes sense. It's a good consumer move. Not giving the upgrade to people who play the Plus version, I get it. I understand where they're coming from, and I'm not going to pick a side on that because I understand, as somebody who got it for free, you should probably pay for the upgrade. But for somebody who already bought the game, you should get that upgrade for free. So that's kind of where I would draw the line in the situation. But The other thing to put out here is, there was a meme floating around right before Final Fantasy VII Remake came out about them doing this, about a situation like this where Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be just basically bastardized in the worst possible way, by having different downloadable content chapters and multiple parts. And it's clear that this is what Square Enix is doing. After the Sony event, they announced a Final Fantasy VII Battle Royale phone game and also another stripped down version of Final Fantasy VII that plays on phones. I can't remember the name. The names are out there, but my point is they are bastardizing this series, specifically the Final Fantasy VII name, in the way that we thought that they were going to do this for this franchise. But I think what's incredibly crummy here is to take a game that was only on the PS4, now going to be on the PS5, and tell all those people that played that game last year, especially in a year and a time where many consumers want to purchase a PS5, but they can't because they can't find the systems. Oh, hey, sorry, you can't play that Yufie DLC because you don't own a PS5 and don't have the PS5 version. Also, if you have never played Final Fantasy VII, PS5 version of the game, if you want to buy the box that says PS5 on it, it's $70. It's $70. PS5 games are $70. And that's ridiculous. They're the only people mandating the $70 price hike. I have yet to see an Xbox game that's selling for $70, but Xbox is kind of a different situation because they have Game Pass, so they're trying to push you in a different direction. But my point is, with Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's such a shit show. I don't understand why the Yufie DLC is exclusive to PS5, when I'm sure this whole DLC has probably been in the works for a while. I don't think this was something that they just decided, hey, we're going to make it now. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was content that was cut from the original game, because that's certainly possible. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I gave it a really good review last year. It pleasantly surprised me. I think for the 50 plus hours that the game offered me, which is essentially that 50 hours is, 15 hours of the original game. They just heavily expanded it. I think it was great, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm curious to see where this specific, sub-franchise in a franchise goes with Final Fantasy VII Remake, but they're doing this the wrong way. I don't want to see DLC chapters with characters that I remember playing in the game. Just make the second part of the game. And I think that's my other issue with it, is not only you're locking a DLC character to a specific new console that not everybody can obtain in 2021, but you're also making that character a DLC chapter. Also, and maybe I'm not up to my Final Fantasy VII lore, it has been a couple years since I played through the original game, but I don't believe Yufie's at this part of the story. And the other character she's with in this DLC is made up for this game. So the whole thing just screams incredible greed, and I've just been surprised in the last week. I haven't seen a single YouTube video talking about this, but the internet, if you go to Reddit, if you go to if you really want to get old school, go to GameFAQs.com, look at those forums, you go to Twitter, whatever. People are outraged by this entire situation, and I had to make a video about it and express my opinion, because sometimes that's what I do on this channel. So anyways, guys, I would love to know in the comments below, what do you think of the Final Fantasy VII Remake situation? Do you think it's a mess? Are you planning to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade? Or are you just don't care because you already played the game? Or do you just not care because you don't like Final Fantasy VII, which is completely fine too? So I'd love to know. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.